here, this is going to be a shocker for a lot of people, but I'm actually going to say something nice about Trump. And I know it's hard for me to say too because, well, I despise the man. But, let's find out. Trump signs FOSTA bill targeting online sex trafficking, enables states and victims to pursue websites. I think that is actually a good thing because sex trafficking needs to stop. And it just boggles my mind that he would be willing to do something to help people. So that's one reason I'm talking about it, is because I just can't wrap my head around the fact Trump's actually doing something to help somebody that's not himself. Trump signed a bill Wednesday that gives federal and state prosecutors greater power to pursue websites that host sex trafficking ads and enables victims and state attorneys general to file lawsuits against those sites. Now, some of the websites that'll get mentioned, like, I've heard of Backpage.com. I've never been there, so I don't know, what it's about, what all's there, and all that. But my question would be, how are they able to determine when it's a sex trafficking ad and not just some chick looking to get fucked for money? I mean, it's still prostitution, which is stupidly enough illegal, but that's not the point. But how are they able to determine the difference? That's what I'd like to know. Addressing the victims and family members in attendance, the president said, "I'm signing this bill in your honor. You have endured what no person on earth should ever have to endure." Trump added, "This is a great piece of legislation and it's really going to make a difference." And I honestly hope it does. Standing next to Trump as he signed the legislation was Yvonne Ambrose of Chicago, whose 16-year-old daughter, Desiree Robinson, was slain after being prostituted on Backpage in 2016. "It means so much to our family," Ambrose said of the bill. "Hopefully there won't be many more people who have to endure that pain." The bill, nicknamed FOSTA for its title, allows states and victims to fight online sex trafficking act, goes into effect immediately, but its impact was already being seen around the internet as sites shut down sex-related areas and stopped accepting sex-related advertising. Bye-bye, Craigslist! The signing comes just days after 7 executives for Backpage.com were arrested on a 93-count indictment that alleges the website facilitated prostitution and laundered tens of millions of dollars in profits, and that teenage girls were sold for sex on the site. Damn. Oh, that's not good. Some of those girls were killed. The government also shut down Backpage's classified ad websites around the world, and moved to seize houses and bank accounts around the US. Yep, they're going almost full-on nuclear at this point. FOSTA gives prosecutors the tools they need, said Ann Wagner, chief sponsor of the bill, to ensure that no online business can ever approach the size of Backpage again. Now, just from the previous paragraph above that one, it just sounds like Backpage is like Craigslist. Like I said, I've never been there, so I have no clue what it is. It could just be selling titty pictures for all I know. I legitimately have no clue. But if it is like, just like Craigslist, that sort of thing, you shouldn't punish the entirety of the website for the sex section. But don't get me wrong, executives need to be held accountable. I'm not saying that they don't. But that would be like punishing the entire Walmart store for something somebody in the gardening section did. I know that's probably a piss poor analogy and I apologize, but it's the best I could come up with. Civil liberties advocates attacked the bill as too broad, creating new liability for websites that had previously been protected by the Communications Decency Act for content posted by third parties. A number of websites, including Craigslist, began shutting down sections that might be construed as sex-related after the bill passed the Senate last month. And Wagner said online sex-related advertising revenue had declined 87% in the past 60 days, roughly when her bill passed the House. Now, I wonder how many, those cam sites have dropped advertising or have been punished because, oh no, sex, nudity, naked women on webcam. that are over 18, doing it of their own accord, that sort of thing. Advocates for sex workers also criticized the bill as depriving them of a safe place to screen customers, as well as removing a tool for law enforcement to track pimps, locate missing children, and build criminal cases. Okay, not wrong about the law enforcement tracking the pimps, the missing children, and criminal cases and all that, but the screening customers, you realize it's quite easy for men to lie, right? And like act one way on the website, and then you meet them and oh shit, that's not who they are. I'm just saying, men, as a man, men do lie. Shutting down every service provider and website will not end sex trafficking, said Gene Brugman, executive director of Freedom Network USA, a coalition of anti-trafficking advocates. What it will do is push traffickers to overseas websites that are beyond the reach of law enforcement, making it harder to prosecute them and harder to find them through the victims. Or they could go on the dark web also, which is essentially the same thing, making it harder to track and find and prosecute. So, you know, in a way, I can see where they're coming from. But the horror stories emerging from websites such as Backpage, in which young girls were trafficked for months or even years, created a tide of frustration that the websites couldn't be forced to stop hosting the ads and that victims couldn't sue the sites for damages. The federal indictment of Backpage officials unsealed Monday described one girl who was prostituted on Backpage from the ages of 14 to 19, saying she was gang raped, choked to the point of seizures, and forced to perform sex acts at gunpoint. The Communications Decency Act, often credited with creating an environment of free speech which enabled the internet to flourish, was successfully invoked by Backpage and others in claiming they were merely hosting questionable content, not creating it. Well, that is true. I would assume they weren't creating it. Criminal cases in California and civil cases in many states were dismissed by judges who said the intent of the act was to protect the website's hosts, and they invited Congress to change the law. Congress accepted the invitation. First, the Senate Investigations Subcommittee launched a detailed investigation of Backpage, eventually extracting millions of documents from the company showing Backpage was raking in more than $100 million in annual profits in recent years, and then finding Backpage was in fact involved in its advertisers' content. And right there, the law, the Decency Act wouldn't cover them, so like, you're involved, you're under arrest. There you go. Internal emails demonstrated that Backpage officials edited ads or advised customers how to edit their own ads, so that terms indicating that a person was a teen or young or fresh would be removed, yet the ad itself would remain online and the victim still prostituted. The report issued by the Senate committee in January 2017 boiled with anger, declaring that Backpage knows that it facilitates prostitution and child sex trafficking, and that Backpage's public defense is a fiction. Damn. Sounds like they're gonna get fucked. And I don't just mean in court. Prison, yeah. Admittedly, they're executives, so they won't go to real prison. They'll go one of those fancy schmancy, highbrow, minimum security lockup joints. Backpage top executives James Larkin, Michael Lacey, and Carl Furr, who I really don't care, were summoned by the committee on the day after the report's release, but invoked their Fifth Amendment right not to incriminate themselves. I'm sorry, but 9 times out of 10, when I hear someone's pleaded the Fifth, I tend to think, yeah, they're involved or they're guilty of something, that sort of thing. So they've basically incriminated themselves to me simply because they're not willing to talk. Because if you're innocent, you're not going to plead the Fifth. At the same time, Backpage announced that its adult services section would close, but the ads merely migrated to that dating section, and young girls continued to be prostituted on the site, the federal indictment alleges. Meanwhile, an investigation by the Washington Post found that Backpage was not only deeply involved in creating ad content, but also soliciting prostitutes from other websites to advertise on Backpage. Documents uncovered by a Washington-based company, CoStar, revealed that a contractor in the Philippines would copy prostitutes' ads from competitors' websites around the world, recreate them in a Backpage template, then contact the prostitutes and offer them free ads already completed on Backpage. The FBI later obtained the CoStar documents, and prosecutors cited them in the new indictment as evidence that Backpage often affirmatively creates the content of the illegal prostitution ads being published. The Philippines project was part of Backpage's plans for international planning and expansion, the indictment stated. So in April 2017, Wagner introduced FOSTA in the House, and Senator Rob Portman, who had overseen the Senate investigation of Backpage, introduced SESTA, the Stop Enabling Sex Traffickers Act, last August. Yvonne Ambrose testified tearfully before the Senate in support of SESTA. A combined version of the two passed the House under FOSTA in February, and then FOSTA cleared the Senate by 97-2 vote last month. Senator Rob Wyden, one of the original authors of the Communications Decency Act, was one of the two no votes, saying it was a mistake to change the law and would have unforeseen consequences on the internet. As someone who's afraid of change and doesn't deal with it well, I can see where he's coming from, but I'd rather give it a chance to help save these girls. The bill amends parts of 4 federal laws, beginning with clarifying that the Communications Decency Act was never intended to provide legal protection to websites that unlawfully promote and facilitate prostitution. It's good to clarify that. It adds a clause to the Decency Act that makes clear it has no effect on civil suits or state criminal cases related to federal sex trafficking crimes. FOSTA amends the Mann Act prohibiting interstate prostitution by adding a new section prohibiting using a website to promote or facilitate the prostitution of another person. That's good. The bill also... Okay, hang on. Let's go back up. Okay. These guys with the hands raised, these 4 older white men, are the ones that were in charge of Backpage. I think it's funny they're all older white guys, kind of fitting this stereotype that older white men are creepy perverts. The bill also amends the law on sex trafficking of children to clarify participating in a venture as knowingly assisting, supporting, or facilitating a violation of the law. And FOSTA creates the ability for state attorneys general to bring civil suits against violators of federal prostitution laws. Anti-trafficking advocates had felt that federal authorities were sometimes slow to pursue violators, and state attorneys general have long denounced sites like Backpage without being able to take action. Large internet companies such as Google and Facebook initially declared their opposition to the bill because of the increased responsibility it would place on websites to monitor third-party content. Google began marshaling its lobbyists for a fight, urging congressional staff to keep members from co-sponsoring Wagner and Portman's bills. But the big companies backed down as they met resistance from members of Congress and anti-trafficking groups, and as their own status plunged in the wake of revelations about election interference and private data sharing. When Facebook's COO, Sheryl Sandberg, declared her support for the bills, the path was cleared. This is a big victory for trafficking victims and survivors, Portman said, who for too long have been denied the opportunity to get the justice they deserve. No one thought we could get this done. But with the bravery of sex trafficking survivors, the hard work of anti-trafficking advocates, and the commitment of my colleagues, we did. Critics still feel the new law creates too much opportunity for lawsuits against websites for content they didn't post and didn't know about. Emma Alonso, and I know I've screwed that name up, so I apologize ahead of time, of the Center for Democracy and Technology said Craigslist has already shut down its personals, misconnections, and dating sections, many of which have had innocent intentions. In those sections, Craigslist posted a note which reads, U.S. Congress just passed H.R. 1865, FOSTA, seeking to subject websites to criminal and civil liability when third-party users misuse online personal ads unlawfully. Any tool or service can be misused. We can't take such risk without jeopardizing all our other services, so we are regretfully taking Craigslist personals offline. Hopefully we can bring them back someday. And of course, yes, I have no question the law will be misused because people are fucking assholes. And then those people should be punished for misusing the law. That's the difficult position a FOSTA law puts operators in, Alonso said, creating reluctant censorship by sites fearful of liability. She said websites may not be aware of suspicious content in one area of the site, and that where the Decency Act credits websites for attempting to moderate objectionable content, the new law may discourage them from moderating for fear they will be accused of knowing about bad content. Ads by sex workers are already closing and moving to less well-known or dark websites, said Kimberly Melman or Zocco. I apologize. I am an idiot. I know this. An author and expert witness on human trafficking. Or they're moving to social media sites such as Facebook and Twitter, where they're able to hide under the veneer of a legitimate social media account, she said. She and some law enforcement officials noted that Backpage was often cooperative with police investigations and provided a place to track the traffickers. What we should have done was facilitate the cooperation between the websites and police, requiring more and better notification, she said. Well, she's not entirely wrong. I do agree with that. All we've done is gotten rid of one virtual place where this can happen, but there are thousands of others out there waiting, many of them out of reach of American law enforcement. One adult site posted a thinly veiled message on Facebook advising users that it was running slow because it now had so much traffic. Ooh, that's not a smart move. Wagner said the law was written specifically to target criminal activity involving sex trafficking and shouldn't affect websites that aren't knowingly violating criminal laws. It narrowly goes in and amends both the CDA and builds out the new crime and the other laws, the Congresswoman said. She said it was written with guidance from state prosecutors and the Justice Department, but that the best part is it combines criminal power with civil power so victims can have justice. And I really do hope that it works and they are able to end sex trafficking, because it's a horrible thing and needs to stop. And if you want me to make a joke about it, I will. Because if they don't end sex trafficking, we'll get another trilogy of Taken movies, and we don't need another one of those. Hey, I didn't say it was going to be a good joke. I'm just saying, Jesus. Well, that's the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to like and comment down below. Subscribe if you want more, and well, I'll see you in the next one.